across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there and a good evening to you. This is Talk and this is Petrie, and I'm with you now until 1 o'clock in the morning, and coming up at midnight it's the full hour phone in. So that is literally as it sounds. It is your opportunity to talk back, to get involved in the conversation, and to have your voice heard. So I hope that you do give me a call. What I want to talk to you about at midnight is why it is you chose not to have children, if you indeed did obviously choose not to have children. Many people now are saying that they don't want to have children. A lot of people in my son's age group are saying, no, that's not for us. And some people think, well, that's because you are selfish. You don't want the cost, you don't want the disruption to your life, you want to have a night. And listen, I don't blame anybody for making that decision. I really don't. You're child-free rather than childless. But how does society, society views women differently to men on this issue, because a lot of people think that a woman is not a woman unless she's had a child, or the only reason that a woman exists is to have children. And of course there are plenty of women who can't have children, so it's a really unkind and unnecessary thought process. But there are a lot of people who believe that, you know, that carte blanche, people will say to a woman, do you have children? It's like none of your business. You know, and if you don't, it's like, oh, can you not have them? Well, I don't know. I just didn't want. I have a child, but I do know I have people in my life that don't, and they're judged really, really harshly for it. At least they were. I don't know if that's still the case. It'd be interesting to find out if that is still the case. So, if you have chosen not to have children, I would love to hear from you. But I'd also like to hear from you if you would like to have had more children, but you couldn't or didn't, and why that was. Was it to do with the state of the planet? Was it to do with the state of politics? Was it to do with money? Was it to do with property costs? So I think there are lots of reasons why people perhaps stay at one child or two children. I come from, I was one of six, originally one of five now. But yeah, big family. And in my village, which is Thorpe Mandeville, if anybody knows the area, there was the Howards, they had 5 children. The Godfreys had 5 children. We were 5 children. I think there was another family with 5 children. There were big, in one tiny bit. When I say a tiny village, it's literally just one road at that time. So there were, four large families of children, and the others were 3 children. It was very rare. I think there was only about 1 or 2 families that had 1 child in their family. So certainly it was the thing to do to have lots of children, but it doesn't appear to be that anymore. And is that simply just down to money? The United Nations has issued a report on the declining birth rates around the world, that we're not replacing ourselves. Every couple should have 2 children. I think it's 1.79. I don't know how they work that out. On average, so we're not replacing ourselves, and we know we've got an ageing population. But as far as the world is concerned, is it better to have a declining population? So anyway, I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000, and you can message me as well on 87222. If you put the word talk up front, that comes through to me here in the studio. You can also WhatsApp a message on 0344 499 1000, or indeed leave a voice message. So those are all the ways that you can get in touch with me. Coming up before that, let me tell you what's going on. We've got the newspapers with Mr. Huffington Post himself, Kevin Schofield. Van Connor, our film critic, will be here with another couple of delights for you. And Victoria Abusis will be here. She's a filmmaker, technologist and AI student founder. So we're going to have a conversation about whether AI are going to replace actors. So all of that is coming up. But first, back to that survey. A new survey has been published by the United Nations looking at birth rate and population, and found that the world fertility rates are in an unprecedented decline. Sampling over 14,000 people in 14 countries and 5 continents, that over a third of the world's population, the report found that birth rates are plummeting across the world. What's really fascinating is that the reason behind these findings of having fewer kids is more a lack of choice rather than a desire. In fact, 2 in 5 people over 50 said they didn't have as many children as they would have liked to. But what is actually driving this decline? And is it really that big a problem when we're constantly being told that the world, in terms of natural resources, is overpopulated? Robert Dingwall, Professor of Sociology at Nottingham University, joins me now. Robert, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. We are being told constantly that there's too many people on the planet for the natural resources that we have, that we're going to run out of things if we're not careful. So is a declining birth rate not something to be celebrated?
Well, certainly the population of the planet has been seen as a problem for at least a couple of generations, and international organizations, including the United Nations, have frequently looked to ways to at least stabilize the growth in world population, if not to bring it into decline. The problem is much more that how we would manage such a transition, because if birth rates decline, we will end up with aging populations, and that will present a set of policy problems that we perhaps haven't devoted enough time to thinking about. But they are not unmanageable problems, and as you said, there are plenty of people in the green movements, in the environmental movements, who would think on the whole that a somewhat smaller population on this planet would not be a bad thing.
I mean, I've been reading a bit about what would be the optimum level, and depending on whose paper you read, it ranges from very low, 300,000 people to sustain the planet, to just a few million. So we're at billions. And like you said, the transition may be difficult, but is it one that eventually we're really going to have to do? We're going to have to go that way if we want humanity or humankind to survive at all.
Well, I think there are some very deep green visions of the planet which are wholly unrealistic of the sustainable population. And as with most of these things, you can crunch the numbers any way you like, and come up with more or less any number you want. I think what's more realistic is to think in terms of a certain flattening of the curve, of stabilizing the world population at maybe 6 or 7 billion rather than 8 or 9 billion, and thinking through what that means for the planet's resources. But it's something that we probably do have to think about and plan for, because if we've learned one thing from research in the last 50 or 60 years, it is that actually it's very difficult to persuade people to have more children than they actually feel that they want or they can afford, or that the context makes possible for them to have. And that comes down to a very complex set of choices about the perceived cost of children, about the perceived opportunities for women. And governments around the planet have tried and failed to manage, to turn the taps on and off. for people having babies with a singular lack of success.
I mean, certainly, if you look at China, with their one-child policy, where there were dying rooms for little girls because people wanted boys because they were seen of more societal value, which created an enormous catastrophe for China. And they're trying to recover from that decision because they haven't got enough women, basically.
Well, I mean, the Chinese demonstrated that what we can actually achieve is reductions in the number of children. Persuading men and women to have more children is actually very difficult, and I can't think of a single government that's actually sustained that. I mean, the Chinese went abruptly into reverse, but they're having great problems persuading Chinese women that they should have more children. Partly because there are now many more choices available to Chinese women. They have opportunities for careers. From what I'm told, and there's a certain amount of research evidence on this, they don't find Chinese men particularly attractive. And I think there has been a problem that a lot of government efforts have concentrated on changing the behaviours of women without trying to think what it is that would that there might be about the behaviour of men that would persuade women that having more children was a good idea, or perhaps marrying at a younger age and starting to have children at a younger age.
It is fascinating, though, isn't it, societally, that these changes have happened really rather quickly, historically speaking. Not quickly enough for some people, but certainly historically speaking, have happened very quickly, with women being in the driving seat, the contraceptive pill, for example, and decisions over your own autonomy, your bodily autonomy. But it does feel like the blame for birth rate slowdown is being put squarely at women's feet. That well, they've got all these choices now, blooming feminism, they don't, they used to just have kids and be happy with it. So it does feel like, if you look at The Handmaid's Tale, it's the women that pay the cost for a slowing birth rate.
Well, there's certainly an element of that, although, I mean, this is a change that's occurred at different times and in different countries, and it's been going on for the best part of 100 years. We're just, if you like, a bit further ahead of the curve in Europe, but there's been quite good evidence for at least 50 or 60 years that many people in the less developed, low and middle income countries, the many women are having more children than they would really have liked. Partly because in a poor country, children are your social security. They are the people who are going to work the land. They're going to provide for you in your old age, or if you get sort of chronically ill or disabled. And once the country becomes more prosperous and those needs fall away, then the reasons to have very large families go into decline. And one of the things that we see, for example, is that when people from lower income countries migrate into Europe, their birth rates rapidly fall into line with that in the host country. So I think we're looking at a very complex phenomenon here, but it does pose policy challenges. I mean, paradoxically, for some of the politics of today, we're relatively well placed here in the United Kingdom, precisely because we've had so much immigration in recent years, and that's kept our birth rates up relative to countries that have had more restricted migration policies. And our politicians haven't been completely straight with us about that. Now, it's a difficult policy choice to say we need more immigrants in the UK. The alternative is actually making big investments in technology in the way that the Japanese are doing. It's a question: would you rather be looked after in your care home by a human being or a robot? And that's the kind of choice that we have to talk about over perhaps the next 40 or 50 years, rather than just sort of throwing our hands up and running into a crisis, because we've relied on cheap labour for care homes, and we've turned that tap off, and we haven't got anything to replace it with.
And Japan is a sort of forerunner, isn't it, at the moment in population decline? What led that? I mean, a lot of people believe that there's a fertility crisis around the world, but from what I've been reading on this report, some of it is fertility issues, maybe leaving it a little bit later to have children, which creates its own issues, but also it doesn't surprise me that fertility issues are on the rise with the way we live our lives and the health crisis and all of those things. But often this report is saying that it's not only because of that the birth rate is declining. It is for other reasons as well.
Well, clearly there are major pressures. I mean, it's conspicuous in Japan, but I mean, it's also felt in certainly some of the more affluent classes in Europe and North America, that children are very expensive and they are very demanding. We make these huge investments in our children, and that comes at the expense of compromises in other areas of our lives. But we do put a lot of pressure on parents to be perfect, and that I think can lead to a feeling that, well, we can't have more than one or two perfect children, as opposed to the sort of childhood that you might have been talking about in, was it Stoke Mandeville?
Thorpe Mandeville.
Sorry?
Thorpe Mandeville, near Banbury in Oxfordshire.
Oh, yes, I do know the area. That sort of country childhood is a very unusual experience today.
I mean, it really is. So, like I was saying, we had at least 4 or 5 children, families in a very, very small village. But the other question I think I have for you is the way society has changed in the way we communicate with each other. I mean, certainly in villages before, people wouldn't move perhaps out of the village. They might, have grown up with a boy or a girl and then ended up marrying them and then had, all of that. But the way we communicate now, we're much wider. You're more likely to be talking to somebody on Xbox who's in America than you are in the town next to you. We're not dating in the same way. We're not meeting each other in the same way. And there seems to be an awful lot of choice. You go on, I don't use them, but these dating apps. And so you get the sense that people are always looking for the next best thing. So we're leaving it later and later and later before we finally go, oh, this one will do.
Yeah. I think there's probably some truth in that. Although I think it's very easy to be romantic about village life. I mean, certainly the English have always deserted their villages in large numbers for towns for as long back, as far back as historical records go. I mean, you go back to the 13th century and you can find people walking from Yorkshire to London. And it's the only way London keeps up its population because the death rates are so high. And that people would meet their partners very often by going to agricultural fairs or being servants in the households of the rich. So I think this idea about your childhood sweetheart and village life is probably a bit of an exception. But the thing that we're perhaps not so good at is, I mean, the last time there was a really big panic in the UK about the failure of about not having enough children was really the beginning of the 20th century, and that drove the government, the Liberal government at the time, to a very extensive programme of social reform, of investment in children, improvements in school meals, improvements in health services for children, the development of people like health visitors, the development of support for mothers. And that certainly arrested the decline, if I can put it that way. And I suspect that if we at least here in the UK, but I think also across Western Europe and North America, if we want to do something about this, we need to be thinking about investments on that sort of scale. It was a really big turnaround in public policy to say that, if we're not going to have as many children as we've had previously, we really need to look after the ones that we've got. And we need to invest in them, and we need to invest in them collectively. It's not just saying, it's about, children are a consumer good, and you have children like you have a washing machine or a widescreen television, and it's down to you. It's down to saying everybody has an interest in the children that the society is producing, and we want to do the best we can for them. And we want to make it as easy and for parents, and we want to share the burdens and the expectations.
And is in the West, our economic model, if you like, capitalism, that is also wanting to produce more children, presumably because the more children there are, the more consumers there are, and the more people there are to work in this never-ending cycle of consumerism in factories to support the rich. Is that also part of this drive? America offering $5,000 to have more babies, as if that's enough. Doesn't even pay for the first doctor's visit. But things like that. Capitalism is driving this as well, surely.
Well, consumerism perhaps, but I mean, capitalism doesn't really depend on having large numbers of people working in factories and mines and quarries and even Amazon warehouses. I mean, there is so much automation, so much use of robots that, as well, pure labor power is really a thing of the past. Nigel Farage talks about opening coal mines in South Wales. I have no idea where the miners would come from.
No.
And that's not really the future. The future is about it's about innovation. It's about investment in knowledge and people and education, and original thinking. And that's how we will make our living in the next century. And some of that will involve thinking about how do we deal with this issue around caring? How do we get the right mixture of carers and technology to ensure that people who get to be 75 like me, have a prospect of 20 years of a reasonably civilized existence if we find that we need a bit of extra help.
Well, I certainly hope that you're around for the next 20 years and get that, Robert. And let's speak again before the 20 years are up. Robert Dingwall there, Professor of Sociology at the Nottingham University. That was fascinating. Right, quick break, back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Yeah, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. We are giving you the chance to win a FIFA Club World Cup final tickets. That's thanks to our friends at DAZN. And here is everything you need to know.
Hello, look who it is, it's me, Andy Goldstein. And here at TalkSport, we're gearing up for the Club World Cup in the United States. And to celebrate, we've got 2 tickets to the final in New York on July the 13th to give away. We're going to sort out the flights, we're going to sort out the accommodation, and we're going to give you £5,000 spending money to spend however you want. How about that?
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, all you have to do to enter is text the word football to 83338. Do that by the 13th of June at 11 p.m, and that's it, you're done, you're in the draw. A text will cost £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have bill payer's permission, or you can just send your name and number by post to Club World Cup Final Prize Draw, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, and it must arrive by 5 p.m. on the 18th of June.
This is a TalkSport limited competition run on TalkSport Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
So don't miss out on this incredible giveaway thanks to our friends over at DAZN, and the best of luck to you. All right, coming up at midnight, it is the phone in, and I've just been talking to the professor there about birth rates going down and just scratched the surface. But what I'd like to know from you is if you have chosen not to have children, and what were the reasons behind that choice? Maybe you wanted more children than you've got, but you decided to stop at 1 or 2 or 3. You always fancied a really big family. What were the reasons that you stopped where you did? And these questions are really important, because for any government to figure out what's going on in the world and what's going on in their country and why people are making the decisions that they're making as to the number of children that they have is important stuff. Because at the moment, as the professor was saying, the only way that we've kept up any decent birth rate is through immigration. And if we cease to have our own children, or the immigrants that have settled here now decide they're not going to have any children either, we're going to have to rely on more immigration. And yet the dichotomy of that is that the world is overpopulated, right? We are billions overpopulated, and like I said, depending on who you read, some people suggest that we have a population of 300,000 across the globe is the only way to sustain the natural resources. Some people say that's incredibly, that's just sort of the green lobby, if you like, going, well, that's the only way. But the professor there was suggesting that we need to get down to by about 2 or 3 billion people. That's how much we've got to get down. So why are we racing to increase population? Well, because each country needs to have a replacement. We need to replace ourselves in order that we get looked after when we're older. It's selfish, really, isn't it? So, and we need workers of the future in order to do that. So I'd like to know, and I'm sure the government would also like to know, why it is you don't have children, why it is you didn't want children, and why it is you stopped where you are in growing your family. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at national rate, but we do call you straight back. You can text as well, put the word talk and then your message to 87222, or a free message, WhatsApp on 0344 499 1000.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good evening to you. This is Talk and it is Petrie here up until 1 o'clock. And just to remind you that coming up next it will be Van Connor, our film critic, and after him Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Now though, we're going to talk tech and AI with Victoria Bousis, who is a filmmaker, technologist and AI studio founder. Victoria, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. I've had the privilege of looking at some of your work, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you.
And I know that we're going to later on in the year we're going to show a bit of the film and talk it through with you when it comes to being released. So I'm really excited about that. But let's talk about what's happening right now. I mean, we've just had London Tech Week is happening right now, and I understand that Americans are swooping in and sort of buying up some of our companies because they are so good and innovative. But there's a lot of positive things being spoken about AI, and yet a lot of people fear it. Where I know that you love it, but should people fear it?
I don't think they should, and I think the Prime Minister was very, very intentional in his speech and in his statements, telling the world that AI will make us more human, and really leaning in on that because he wants people to not really see it as a place of fear, but a place of aspiration. And I think he knew that with the people in the room. Obviously, the big tech companies were all there. Google was there, Nvidia was there. And also the UK ecosystem was there too. There's a lot of UK-based AI companies that are doing very, very well, a lot of VC funding in there. And he wanted them to know that the UK is a meaningful partner, and a meaningful partner that's going to innovate and invest and put a lot of money into the infrastructure, upskilling students, and continue to create these partnerships to ensure that people don't fear it and that people actually learn how to use it and have the UK be competitive moving forward.
But we are going to have to drastically re-skill, and possibly sooner than we think, because AI is just racing ahead, and in some cases behaving in a peculiar way, lying, making things up when it wants to, in ways that we don't want it to race ahead. But we're still lagging behind in education, in what we're expecting students to learn. I mean, almost teaching mathematics now is a complete waste of time in terms of future careers.
Yes, I mean, I don't think it's a waste of time, because I think people still need to learn how to write, they learn how to speak, they need to have an emotional intelligence, and those fundamentals like mathematics, et cetera, will be used. However, they will be amplified. So you can get your answers quicker, you can learn how to write code faster with simple prompts using normal language. You don't have to know fancy stuff like C++ and kind of the geeky language of things. You could really know the human-based language of things. And I think this is why even the Prime Minister is saying we need to invest money in this, because there has to be an actual curriculum that's being created for these future students. And I believe he's spending £150 million to create that curriculum. He's having Google create a campus, and also Nvidia create an innovation lab to actually have them help the government actually build this curriculum that actually speaks to the students, leveraging those essential academic subjects, but also adding the AI component and that layer over it so that it's enhanced, so they are more productive and more efficient and effective with their time.
There are people, though, right now who are a bit older, they're out of education, they've been working in the real world, copywriters, for example, who are being replaced as we speak. I know a couple of copywriters, that's been their bread and butter. They're not getting any work now because AI is doing it all. So the lag there in, the boss of Nvidia was saying, look, you don't have to fear AI, but there are people who will and do fear it because they've already lost their jobs to it.
I do agree with you. And Jensen's been saying that for quite some time now. He's been saying, people, AI is here and it's moving at an exponential speed. Please start learning the tools, start learning those good tools. But adoption is not easy for everyone, as you mentioned. There's a group of people that are just not technically savvy, or just don't like change. And those jobs, sadly, will be replaced. If they are replaceable by automation or chat AI bots. That will happen. But what I would say first is, before leaning in with an automatic sense of a reaction of fear, open up Safari, go on Google, type in, openai.com, download ChatGPT and ask it a simple question. I'm a teacher. This is what I know. This is what my job has been for this X amount of years. These are the classes that I teach. What tools can I learn that are basic for me, that I can start learning on? Please provide the links. And you will see links there that are free. Some are on YouTube and accessible free. There's other courses online for other kind of jobs, more creative oriented jobs as well. But it simply starts by just asking a question. And then what it will do for you is, it actually knows that you don't know what to ask next. So what it actually does is that actually feeds you a couple questions. Oh, so you're a teacher that teaches this subject. Okay, these tools work well. Why don't you pair it with this? Should I build out a curriculum for you, or a course schedule for you? And you respond, yes. It will print one out for you. So it's there to aid you. But if you just stop right there, then it becomes this gigantic mountain that makes you filled with fear and a lot of anxiety. And it's warranted. I totally understand.
But you look at jobs of the future and reading through it. For example, there's a TV company here in London that uses AI to deliver their sports bulletins. Right, so it's already an AI voice. Those of us who use our voices for work and potentially for voiceovers and things like that, we can be replaced so simply. In fact, I can be replaced with myself really easily.
You can.
Which is really unfair. So those are the things you think. Well, the creative industries might be safe. I paint as well, so I'm an artist. I can be replaced in both jobs by AI.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not that it's not true. However, I think where this is an opportunity that I see, where before it was those that had the most amount of knowledge were the safest, right? Yeah. That knowledge is no longer a scarcity. Now it's saying to you, okay, you have this bag of tricks, the AI tools, right, and these prompts and stuff. Now, how creative can you be in using them? It's actually giving a rise to the creative thinker who's thinking outside the box, and to use those tools to actually allow them to really amplify their superpower. So whether it's you painting, or the unique way in which you touch your audiences, and the unique way in which you speak to them, it can't figure that out yet. Because that is your creativity, your superpower, and your capability. It only can replicate what has happened in the past in a certain kind of pattern. So that use of your creativity is actually where that superpower lies, with maintaining your job in the future.
But how long will it be before an AI can perfectly replicate? I mean, I need empathy, I need humour, I need all of those things to do this job. But it's really not going to be long before an AI, they can use my voice, they could use my personality. So here's Petrie Hosken's personality. Watch, I don't know, I've got thousands of hours of broadcasting, thousands and thousands behind me. AI could read that or watch that in minutes, if not seconds, and then replicate a personality. It's not going to be that long, is it?
No, it's not going to be that long. In a sense that, yes, we can replicate your voice now. I can get you to read one paragraph and I can clone your voice with
Exactly.
11 Labs, a UK-based company. I could have 2 to 4 hours of your footage and I can get your mannerisms, your nods, your move-ins, the way in which you use your hands. Yes, I can get that. But can I get the synergy between you and I? I can't get that right now. And it's interesting because not too long ago, I was overwhelmed with work. I was traveling back and forth, country to country. And I sat there and I was like, gosh, I just need to clone myself. And I stopped for a minute. Yeah, right? And I stopped there for a second and I'm like, well, ChatGPT, if Victoria Bustos wanted to clone herself and this is what she wanted, blah, 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 what I wanted to do, right, for me. The first question it asked me, and it was so crazy that it asked me this, it caught me off guard. I'm actually want to write an article about this. It said, we first have to start with Victoria's soul. What is Victoria's soul? And I kid you not, Petrie, I stopped, full stop.
Wow.
And then I'm like, well, what is Victoria's soul? How do I write that in text?
Yeah.
How do I express that? But the mere fact that it asked me that question tells me that the coders, the developers, everyone behind the scene, the Oz, right, behind the scene, is actually trying to think of how to break that down to find the soul of another, the essence of another, the ideas of empathy and compassion and sincerity and interaction, human interaction, basically broken down based on words. So, it's trying to figure that out because just to ask me that question alerts me to that.
To the fact that it's on the right path.
It's on the right path.
Just very quickly, because I know you're a film director, and you've been asked by actors before about them being replaced by AI, and certainly we know that we had the SAG-AFTRA strikes, right, in the US, which were very concerned about actors being told they were getting paid for one day's work, but they would have to sign a piece of paper to say that their image could be used for the rest of time free of charge. And already we know that AI-generated crowd scenes are being used, so those people have already lost their work to AI. What is to stop directors like you going, do you know what, I don't need these actors, are really annoying, they need feeding, they need sleep, they're very argumentative, I can just do without them?
Well, listen, I mean, coming from a person that creates digital humans and digital worlds, and I've used, AI in multiple ways, as I mentioned earlier, at the end of the day, I still put an actor underneath that motion capture suit. Because in the scenes that I wanted to convey, which was a very emotionally charged a scene, which required a really beautiful and deep interplay between the two actors actually to get that right, I think in that sense, actors are irreplaceable, because I think that magic, those moments in a film that really cause us to gasp or just cause our hearts to flutter, those moments are made of the moment because of the synergy of those two actors kind of feeding off each other's interplay and each other's connection, or that connection between the director and the actor saying, why don't we improvise this and try this a little bit with this kind of tonality instead? That's where the magic happens. And I think as long as human creativity exists, as long as the story is still the core of every director's aspiration, and we're trying to deliver a story that delivers that universal theme that makes us feel, I think that AI still has its limits. However, actors are irreplaceable and human creativity continues to be irreplaceable.
That is very, very good to hear. Andy Serkis will be thrilled. It's so good to talk to you, Victoria. I'm really looking forward to seeing your film and to talking to you a little bit later on. Let's do it again very soon. Victoria Bustos, their filmmaker, technologist and AI studio founder. Right, we're looking at movies next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And joining me now is the fabulous Van the Man himself, Connor, film critic.
Petrie, how are you doing, lovely?
I'm all right. How are you?
Oh, I can't go. But you know, another week, another round of movies. I'm always happy.
I know. Your job. Just watch movies. Brilliant. Fantastic.
If only it was as pleasant as that.
I know.
You know, every now and again they make a new Transformers movie, is all I'm saying.
That's true. Or Insidious 6, which we'll get to.
Yes, or Insidious 6.
Tell me about the movies you've got. Dangerous Animals.
Yeah, so Dangerous Animals, new movie starring Jai Courtney. Do you remember Jai Courtney? He's one of those famous "we try to make him into a thing" experiments the film industry does every few years. Do you remember at all? He popped up for 5 minutes here and there. No, he's the one you could so easily have confused with Jai Courtney, despite the fact that they look nothing alike. Anyway, it's the weirdest thing. I could show you a picture of Sam Worthington, ask you if that's Jai Courtney, and I've got folding money says I'd be right, and you'd think it was. So Jai Courtney is a Shark Tour boatsman who takes newlywed couples out on the water, lures newlywed couples out onto the water with the promise of swimming with the sharks. You know, as they all want to do when honeymooning on the Gold Coast in Australia, etc. And only he's got a bit of a secret. You see, he actually worships sharks. He's obsessed by them, in fact, after a traumatic childhood incident warped his fragile little mind, and now he likes to abduct these couples, poke them full of holes, and sacrifice them to the sharks. And he kidnaps one young surfer girl who he takes along for, one of said sacrifices, only for her to have to try and escape. Have a listen to this clip.
Now listen, this is a very special, ancient relaxation practice that was taught to me, and it took many years at sea to master. If you'll just go with me here, I promise you it'll help. Now close your eyes. Take a big, deep inhale. And out. And in. And out. Baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do do do.
Not that song. That's going to be around my head now for the rest of today.
That's the second movie this year it's been in as well, because it was also in Drop as well. So there's a weird thing about Baby Shark.
There is about Baby Shark. So, I mean, this sounds like an absolute bloodfest. But I would like it, I think.
The weird thing about this is it should be like a teen-friendly, psychologically driven slasher, but it kind of plays more to like you and me, where we'd rather watch something like Dead Calm. Yeah, you know, it's kind of a bit more like that. And here are some words I never thought I would say about any movie ever. So mark this day in your calendars. Jai Courtney is the best thing about this movie and absolutely the reason to see it. And I never thought I would say those words. All right. He's in a different movie to what the screenwriter has written, but then again, everybody else involved in the movie is on a different page, pun intended, to what the screenwriter has written. So the screenwriter has written this Dead Calm-like psychological chiller, and everybody involved in it, like doing the score, the cinematography, the performances, everything, are all geared towards here is a schlocky horror movie. Right. But Jai Courtney is still fun all the same, and absolutely worth seeing it for that reason. And there's still the requisite gore in there. It's just a bit laboured between all of the aspiring Dead Calm beats.
Okay. And what certificate is this?
So this is a 15. It could be a little bit... I did wonder if it had pushed it into 18, so I didn't check until afterwards. But no, it's only 15, this one.
It's only 15 at this point. It's in cinemas now. Ballerina sounds very different.
Yeah, Ballerina is... well, this is a spin-off to the John Wick universe. So this is Jane Wick, effectively. Or as I prefer to call it, Atomic Brunette. because
Right.
it's Anna de Armas in this one. So latest one from the 87 North gang, who started out with John Wick, wound up making Atomic Blonde, The Fall Guy, Violent Night, Nobody, movies like that. Nobody, incidentally, was also a John Wick spin-off, as is this. This follows one of the ballerinas from the school that raised John Wick, and she goes out on her own revenge mission to find the evil criminal cartel, led by Gabriel Byrne, no less, who murdered her parents years earlier. So I've got a clip for you. Enjoy Anna de Armas in Ballerina.
You just made everything a whole lot worse. Those people that you're looking for are surrounding this hotel right now, hoping somebody breaks the rules and takes the bait. I think they were hoping that somebody was going to be you. Now you've just made them antsy.
Why would they be at the hotel?
They just want me dead to get to her.
Yeah, a big fan of the John Wick films. Actually, love them.
Yeah, as am I. I will happily take down a John Wick movie in an afternoon.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely no problem. I don't care which one it is either. They're all brilliant.
This is not in the upper echelon of those movies. For my money, it's better than John Wick 2, but I think that's the least effective of that series anyway. So second worst John Wick movie, and not as good a spin-off as Nobody was. Anna de Armas can do the physicality of it all. She manages that very well, but really isn't given much of a character to work with. And for a film that really needs to set itself apart from John Wick, they crowbar entirely too much actual John Wick in there. The film itself, not terribly great. Like, it feels like a 2000s era direct-to-DVD thing that Sony used to make their sort of bones with when they were sort of floating their direct-to-DVD label in that era. But the stunt sequences, the action choreography, pretty much any set piece in it is second to none, and that's testament to 87 North. Those sequences are so good and so common, so frequent and so involving that you constantly forget just how much dross you've sat through to get there, and it constantly re-distracts you. It's quite effective at that.
I mean, the John Wick movies is all about the dogs, as far as I'm concerned. His, and then the killer dogs and the whistling, and I mean, will say they are unbelievable.
They do drop the ball somewhat massively by having this mantra that's fight like a girl, which is meant to be kind of inspiring and kind of kick-ass, but then they undercut it immediately by saying, so take every advantage you can get and cheat. Which is like, well,
yeah, that's not...
okay, no,
that's not how girls fight.
Entirely.
That's not how we fight mean.
I'm willing to bet you could whoop my ass. Listen,
I've got 3 brothers. There's barely anyone that I couldn't.
You're a tough gal, I know.
I couldn't do it. Ben Stiller, he's in talks to direct a film reboot of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah, apparently people really like Severance. Is the only thing I can think of for this, because there's no other earthly reason in the universe that you'd associate Ben Stiller with the Twilight Zone. And no, apparently this is the thing now, because he's got like a blank check from Apple now to go off and partly fund whatever he wants. And I don't think he's actually making this for Apple. I would imagine it's going to be an NBC Universal job, but it still brought him enormous clout. And because of the way that Severance kind of is a Black Mirror Twilight Zone-like story, you can imagine this be quite an easy fit. My big question is, does this mean that Ben Stiller is going to turn up on screen like Rod Serling used to, and that Forrest
he
Whitaker
needs
and
to,
Jordan
really.
Peele?
I love that when they do.
Is he going to be there in the suit with the cigarette? And you're entering another realm.
Another realm.
You know. So
but you see, I love the Twilight Zone of its day, and I think that actually that genre does bear remaking.
I will say Jordan Peele had a crack at doing it for television about 5 or 6 years ago. Lasted 2 seasons, I think. I only saw the first, and the first was brilliant. There was a really good one that starred the young boy from Room, Jacob Tremblay, that I thought was very good. And there was quite an inventive new spin on Terror at 30,000 Feet, the old Shatner / John Lithgow, Something on the Wing story.
Was it the Twilight Zone that was do 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 do?
That is in fact the Twilight Zone, because you could so easily get it confused with The Outer Limits and now
Yes,
Black Mirror
and we,
as well.
of course, we used to, every time there was, when we were kids, when there was anything surprising, we'd go do 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 do. So that's why I remember it. Van Connor, it's always a joy. Mwah. Thank you very much indeed, Van Connor there, our film critic. I'd like to see the Twilight movie. Anyway, listen, coming up, it is going to be Kevin Schofield. He's on his way into the studio to go through the papers for Wednesday.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, it is marvellous to have your company, and with me is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
It's
Nice
I'm
to see you.
extremely well. All the better for having you in the studio.
Thank you.
I have to be honest with you. Listen, before we get to the papers, birth rates. This is a United Nations report that has just come out. Birth rates are plummeting worldwide, but they say it's not just because people don't want kids anymore, although I think going forward that is definitely going to be the case. I certainly know in my son's age group, sort of mid to late 20s, they're not planning on ever having children. And there's various reasons for that. There's money, there's housing, there's the state of the world and the potential of a war. So
not pretty good reasons, really. You don't blame
I think
them.
so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Definitely logical.
Now you've got a couple of kids, haven't you?
I do, yes.
Was that what you wanted, or did you want more? Would you have had more if you had more money? You know, what?
I mean, yeah, maybe we might have had more if we had more money. I mean, I seem to remember when we first got engaged and, we were making plans for the future, and it was like, well, it'd be quite nice to maybe have 3 or 4. So I don't have any brothers or sisters, and I didn't want to have an only child.
Right.
And my wife has got a brother and a sister, so she's from a bigger family, and she was like, yeah, 3 or 4 would be nice. And then Charlotte, our eldest, came along relatively quickly, and she was a bit of a nightmare sleeping wise. She basically never slept for 2 years, which it was just, she was the last in the prenatal class group, the NCT group. to sleep through the night. It was just like we were tortured by her basically for 2 years.
No.
So that kind of put us off having more than 2.
Yeah.
Basically, we just thought, we'll have one more because we don't want her to be an only child.
Yeah.
But we'll cut our
Does she
losses
know
after
this?
that. Oh yeah, we've told her that. But we're just keeping our fingers crossed that the second one wouldn't be as bad as sleep, and she wasn't, thankfully. So that it wasn't quite so painful. But yeah, 2 was plenty for us. And then by the time the second one was born, I was 40 or 41, and I thought that's old enough to have a kid.
But you say if you have more money, but it's also, isn't it? It's about having the time, wanting to have your careers. You know, wanting both of you to also have a life. But do you think that people are becoming more selfish in that regard? Because it never used to be, even not that long ago, there wasn't even a question over a woman continuing to have a career. There was just, that was it. He had his career or job. Yeah. Her job was to stay at home, and everything has changed.
Yeah, it has, and you know, I've got no problem with that. Absolutely, women should be able to have the careers, the fulfilling careers that they want. But I guess the inevitable consequence of that is that the amount of kids that we have are going to be fewer, because you just can't fit it in as much as anything that they do. If a woman takes, say, 10, 15 years out to have 3, 4 kids, then
that's the career over.
Her career's over. She's never going to make up for that lost earnings, promotions, all that type of stuff. And you can understand if they want to have a career and, you know, are ambitious, then you can understand why they might think, well, we'll just stop at 1 or 2. And I've got a friend who has got 3, and we only had 1 at the time, and I said, well, I think I have another one. He went, 2 is plenty. He says 3 is unmanageable. Really? That's what he said. So that was also in my head as well.
I was one of 6, and then sadly one of my sisters didn't make it, but so one of 5 growing up.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No, I can imagine. Well, my mum was one of 3, and my dad is one of 5, you know, but just that those Catholic as well, you see, so they did have a lot of kids.
Well, I mean, we weren't Catholic, but I was saying earlier that in my very small village, it was literally just one road. There were 4, maybe even 5 children families.
Yeah.
I mean, you imagine that. I mean, that's why in the summer holidays, our parents used to open the door, go, right, all of you out.
Yeah. And
don't come back until it gets dark, or until the street lights come on.
Yeah.
But, you know, that was literally it. We were out all day causing havoc, because there were there were 20, 25, 40 children of various different ages, I would imagine, in that village, because those who didn't have 5 children had 3 children.
Yeah.
And almost every house was a family home.
Yeah.
There were masses of us.
Great childcare, though.
Well, yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was.
Whereas now...
No parents or adults.
No.
Just, or mobile phones.
No, even better.
Even better. Just very, very dangerous games.
Yeah, they would be.
Like British Bulldog, where we used to literally knock each other out.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Or climbing trees.
It doesn't seem to have done you any long-term damage.
Well, I had a brother either side of me, and then another brother. Yeah, one brother that side, 2 brothers the other. So I was the only girl for a while, and then my sister came along. But I was brought up scrapping.
Yeah.
You know, climbing trees and being a tomboy.
Yeah.
But the stuff we got up to was so dangerous. I look back on it now and I shudder with fear.
Oh, I mean, the kids would never do it now.
No.
You'd probably get social services onto you if you just let your kids
we used to play this game called Man from Uncle that we made up from the TV show.
Yeah.
And it involved bale twine, which can't be broken. I don't know if you've ever tried that orange bale twine. It just doesn't snap or anything. It's nylon, and so we used to. One team would tie up the other team, usually somewhere very dangerous, like a grain silo, on the local farm, and the other team would go run away. It's hide and seek, basically. But you were tied up, so you had to first of all get untied, and then go and find them, and get the cuts in your wrists and your ankles.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. We were evil, horrible,
kids are left to their own devices. They're going to get up to all sorts, aren't they?
We were feral. I mean, it was honestly how nobody died, especially tying somebody up in a grain silo.
Yeah.
Which the farmer could at any point just filled with grain, drowned several children. I mean, the farmer was always like, "Get off my land,"
Yeah.
and we were always there. But I think those big families, I think we are seeing that they've gone, haven't they? Really?
Yeah.
Again,
they're
not having them.
No, they're pretty much the preserve of the very well off. You know, if they can afford for the wife to stay at home, the husband's got an amazing job.
I mean, very well off, because if they're all going to be privately educated,
well, they'll be privately educated as well, which, you know, slap an extra 20% on it because of the VAT. It's unusual now really to see a family with 3 or more kids. It's like, that's a lot of children.
And the professor I was talking to earlier has said that the only reason we've kept up with the birth rate that we need is through immigration. But the immigrants, even when they get here, they might have one large family, but then their children won't have as large a family. So very quickly, those immigrants stop having those large families and become like us. And just think, well, I'll have, you know, maybe that the norm is to have 2, 1 or 2. But we're not replacing ourselves. I mean, you've done your duty.
I have done my duty, yes. I can retire.
You can retire now knowing you're saving the planet.
That's it, by not having too many.
But
the problem is, you know, economically, it's a big problem because we've got an ageing population and there's not enough young workers coming through, basically, to pay for the pensions of older people.
And to be consumers.
Absolutely. And to be consumers, to pay the taxes that also fund social care, the NHS.
To work in those things as well.
Absolutely. You know, all these things. So
and
there's
yet,
big problems for the future.
The planet, we're told, is hugely overpopulated by billions. And that actually the only way to sustain humankind is for probably a 3 billion, if not more, reduction. I mean, some people, some of these planners, mappers, whatever they're called, have said that actually the population of the globe should be around 300,000 people.
My goodness.
I know. And we're at what, 8-9 billion?
Yeah.
So, but other people are sort of in the middle of saying 5 billion, and we're at 8 or 9 billion. So it seems such a dichotomy to me that we need to have these children, and yet the planet is dying because there's too many of us.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess if the birth rate has fallen, then, you know, logically those numbers will eventually start to come down.
Well, I think nature will take care of it eventually. I mean, the rise in infertility, I can't think that's...
Yeah.
I think nature has a way of culling populations or
Yeah, that could well be what's happening.
It is that dichotomy of, look, we haven't got enough people to sustain each country, but actually what we should do is take the pain of not having enough people so that the planet survives.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for the long-term future of humankind. But I guess we are hanging around longer as well, aren't we? We're living much longer.
Yeah.
So there aren't as many people dropping off that end.
Well, maybe we need to do like that movie where all the older people over the age of, I think it was 35, wasn't it? Were put to death. Yeah.
Older people?
Yeah, I know.
What film was that?
Oh, what was that film called? Somebody will tell me. Logan's Run?
Right.
I think it was Logan's Run.
So what happened to them?
I mean, it's basically a dystopian future where there were too many people in the world, and so they used to say to these people at a certain age, you get released into doing something lovely, but in fact, over the age of 30.
30?
30. Well, you're not there yet, Ken. From 2,274. Oh, that was the year it's projected in.
Oh, I see. Right.
2,270 and 74. But it was Logan's Run, wasn't it? Yeah. Right. So anybody over the age of 30, and obviously the film they figure it out and then break away. But over the age of 30, you're dismissed. So maybe that's what we need to be looking at now.
30, my goodness.
30.
Seems a bit.
That was obviously written by a 18-year-old.
Yeah. Might as well die when you're 30.
You might as well die when you're 30.
Your life's over.
There's no point
to that age.
that. Yeah, we all thought we would die by 30, didn't we? Live fast and die young, and still have a good-looking corpse. I think that was the theory. It is really interesting because something radical will have to happen. Either we have to then start forcing women back into the servitude of motherhood, which good luck with that.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Or you know, we have to start looking at how the population is managed better.
Yeah, I suppose. But how do you do that? I mean, what, you're going to have forced sterilisation? You're going to have like a Chinese-style two-child policy? Or... But haven't didn't they relax that policy?
They did relax it, yeah, they did, because they realised that it was an absolute nightmare. I mean, a friend of mine was reporting out there, and they had dying rooms for little girls because the families didn't want girls because they were socially not as valuable. And so if a girl child was born, they'd either put them out in the freezing cold and let them just die in the garden, or take them to these rooms where they were left. They were called dying rooms. And this was up until fairly recently. So these little girls would be put in there and they would only keep the boys. But then you had a situation where the boys, and I believe it still happens in rural China now, where the boys marry dead women. They're called death brides or dead brides or some death brides, I think they are, in order that they don't go into the next world as unmarried men.
Right.
Because that again is a societal. I mean, they don't dig them up or anything. I mean, they married them by name.
Yeah.
But because it's important in Chinese culture not to be single when you pass on.
Right. Okay.
But they found now that there's a total imbalance of population, and there are not enough women to marry the men that there are, you know, a disproportionate number of. So it's gone completely wrong for China, and in fact they've got a population decline because of it.
Yeah.
And Japan is the worst. It's the forerunner. There's a huge percentage of the population are over the age of 80. They're just not having more children, and so now they're having to turn to technology to look after older people because there just aren't the young people coming through. So Japan, if you like, is a foresee for us. We look at Japan and go,
"Oh,
crikey,
the future, yeah.
that is what's happening globally."
Yeah.
It really fascinates me, the whole global population, because, like I said, the dichotomy is, globally, we need people not to have children.
Yeah.
But societally and as individual countries, we need more children.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And just, as I say, economically, we definitely need to have more children, more work, and to put it, you know, pretty starkly.
Are you looking forward to being a grandpa?
I do sometimes think about it.
I can see you as a grandpa, actually. Yeah,
is it because of the grey hair?
I think so. And the cardigans.
And the cardigans. I do like a cardigan.
I know you
and my slippers. So I'm already, you know, I'm trying out for the role.
You haven't got a cardigan on today, which is most upsetting. But, I think, I can see you as a grandpa.
Yeah, well, hopefully not too soon, because my oldest is only 15
nearly.
No,
God, no.
So hopefully not
another 15 years, maybe.
Yeah, I can handle that.
Go with that.
I'll be in my mid-60s by then, so that's fine. That's fine. It seems like a decent time to be a grandparent. Although I've got friends my age who are, I've got one pal who's got 2 grandkids.
No.
Back home, yeah. Yeah, he married quite young. They were in their early 20s, him and his wife, and they had kids quite quickly, and their eldest has had 2 kids. So yeah, he's the same age as me.
Are grandparents. I've got one. Oh, no, I've got 2. 2. My oldest friend, her daughter is my goddaughter, so my grand-godmother, if that is such a thing. So my goddaughter's had a little girl called Edith, and another friend of mine, Karen, who's got 2 and a third one on the way. But that's it in my circle.
Yeah.
The rest of us, I think, have got boys who are going, we're not having kids.
No. Yeah, boys maybe are more likely to be like that than girls. I didn't want kids until I turned 30. Then it's sort of almost like overnight.
And did you get broody? Did you really want
I must have done, I think. Yeah. I was like... Yeah, I was in my 30s, early 30s, I reckon, and I thought, I'd quite like to have... I better get my skates on.
Really?
Type of thing. Yeah. Up until then, my 20s, had no interest whatsoever in kids. Having kids didn't bother me.
But I mean,
then I was like, no, I probably should.
Yeah, I don't blame people, because when you go out, I'm allergic to other people's children, and particularly when you're out in a restaurant or a bar, and people just don't seem to know how to parent.
No.
And they allow them to behave so badly. I'd have got a clip round the ear as a kid if I'd behaved anywhere near.
Yeah, it drives me nuts when you see parents just let their kids
run around doing whatever the hell.
Just don't know how to behave in public settings.
Yeah,
you know, they're not taught. It's not the kids' fault.
No,
they're not taught how to behave.
No, but it's
just like running around restaurants.
It's usually the dads with a top bun.
That's always a bit of a red flag.
The West London poshos who believe in gentle parenting or no parenting.
Yeah, you don't say no. That is a thing. You never say no to your child.
Can you imagine?
The most used word.
Yeah. It is for my puppy now.
And that's just my wife speaking to me. But yeah.
No, my puppy thinks his name is No Humphrey. It's not Humphrey anymore, just No Humphrey. Let's take a break before we start looking at the papers. Kevin and I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it is Petrie with you, and with me is Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. Let's have a look at the New York Times, if we can. Of course, a lot of attention turned towards the United States of America since Donald Trump was inaugurated. This time, though, images of LA are taken, I think, probably on the weekend, maybe even the Friday, because it seems to have been relatively calm since then.
Relatively, I mean, despite I think Trump's best efforts to really whip it up, for his own political ends, you know, going over the head of Gavin Newsom, the Democratic governor,
who he hates,
absolutely despises him, and it's mutual, feels mutual.
Yeah, but apparently Melania quite likes Gavin Newsom.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. There's a bit of personal beef between them as well. Melania, with some of the stuff that I've read, Melania is quite sweet on him.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you can see who she's married to. You can understand. You can understand that. But you know, like those around Trump as well, they're ramping up. There's a Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House, posted on social media that this is a fight to save civilization.
He's a creepy dude.
He is a creepy dude. So you see what they're trying to do here, you know, and Newsom isn't taking it lying down. I mean, Trump is trying his level best to turn this into
a crisis.
Effective. Yeah, he is, you know, because it suits his agenda to make it all about immigrants.
I mean, also Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, she was saying we feel like we're being used as a test case, so other cities better watch out. And I guess this is, you know, if Trump can override the Constitution, can crush a state governor, he's talking about having him arrested. What's his name? I can see him. Anyway, suggested that Gavin Newsom should be tarred and feathered. And one of the senior people in Trump's cabinet, Bannon has suggested that he needs to be deported, but
it seems to be Bannon's answer to everything.
It does
just
really.
Deport people.
I wish he'd deport himself. But it's very interesting that Karen Bass was saying, look, this seems to be a real test. If he can crush a blue state, if he can crush and override the Constitution here, then he can do it anywhere.
Absolutely. And he is absolutely. It is about sending out a message, but I mean, the hypocrisy as well is stunning. He told reporters on Sunday, nobody's going to spit on our police officers.
We can kill them in January the 6th, but not spit on them.
He pardoned.
I know.
The people
he pardoned people who'd done it.
Who attacked police officers. So, you know, I take his crocodile tears with a massive pinch of salt. But, I mean, there's no doubt that, you know, things aren't great in California, but as I say, Trump's doing his level best to try and whip it up, and he's certainly not looking to calm the situation at all. He wants to make it worse.
Well, I've got friends who live out there, and they're saying, look, it's a tiny part of LA, the rest of it is just ticking on as normal. Nobody's really that bothered. The Pride March went ahead the other day. There were police in attendance there. I tell you what was interesting today, though. Donald Trump was talking about nobody better protest on the 14th, which is this coming Saturday. It's his birthday, and he's having this big parade that's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. It's going to wreck the roads of DC, and all of those things. But it's also No King's Day. So there are 1,600 protests planned around the country. But he's said today, you better not protest, otherwise we are going to use force. That's the First Amendment.
Because it's his birthday.
It's his birthday and the 250th anniversary of America.
But it's like someone from an authoritarian state,
it's Kim Jong-un, isn't it? I mean, it's definitely North Korea.
I mean, no president has ever had public celebrations.
No, he tried to get it.
Birthday before.
He tried to get it when he was the president first time, 45th president. And there were grown-ups in the room at that point, which he sacked this time. And they said, absolutely not. This is not going to happen. But it's again interesting to have a look at Washington and how all these massively high metal fences are being now placed around Washington, D.C. along the side of the road. But he has threatened anybody protesting this day, anybody, that they will come down on them with brutal force. I mean, this is their First Amendment right to peacefully gather.
But he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the Constitution. No, I'm not sure he's read it.
It appears not. But yeah, it'll be very interesting to see because, like I said, this is No King's Day. And also, I think the Pope is having his first Mass at the same time as this march.
Right.
Which a lot of people are suggesting he's done deliberately.
Well, he's quite political, this Pope, and no fan.
And he's from Chicago.
He's from Chicago and no fan of Trump.
No.
Definitely. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional.
And I wouldn't mess with anybody from Chicago. Lovely people, but tough as old boots. There's the other stories there is Trump leaps at the chance for clash in California. That's the main one. Limits on loans could intensify doctor shortfall. Do you know how much it costs to do 4 years of medical education in America? These are the debts that these people are left with.
Yeah, it's $286,454.
So it's $300,000 or $400,000. Yeah.
$400,000 at a private one.
Those are the debts. They're just the school debts.
My goodness. That is absolutely extraordinary. I mean, you'll never pay that off.
You'll never pay that off.
I mean, that's a big mortgage.
Yeah, you've got your student debts, and then you've got obviously medical debts, the two biggest killers in America in terms of debt. But yeah, I mean that's buying a house, isn't it? That is absolutely huge. But what the President Trump wants to do is cap the amount of money you can borrow before you can become a doctor, which to become a doctor or to spend on education, $250,000. So that you just won't get enough doctors.
No.
It's just so short-sighted and stupid. I just don't understand it.
And you can't really see past the end of his nose, really.
I mean, it's so arbitrary, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what only rich people can become doctors, and maybe that's what he wants to do.
Maybe.
He wants to make sure that only the rich people get richer and the poor people stay where they are.
And the poor people can't get...
Yeah, they can't even get to be educated.
Well, they can't get educated, and also if they're going to cut Medicaid as well, then they're not going to be able to get medical treatment either.
No,
just
it's outrageous.
Just leave them to die.
Yeah,
maybe that's what you want.
I think that is. Yeah. Let them eat cake. The Times for Wednesday. Israeli ministers sanctioned by UK over monstrous comments. A lot of people say this is about time, really, that Britain put their money where their mouth was.
Yeah, and it's not just the UK. They've joined with Canada, Australia, New Zealand and Norway in doing this. Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, Ben-Gvir's the security minister, they're members of right-wing parties, part of Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition. Now, he needs them to remain in power, so that gives them obviously some political cover for their incredibly right-wing views about... They basically effectively want to just get rid of the Palestinians altogether and take over Gaza and the West Bank. Predictably, Israel have hit back and said that these sanctions on these two politicians are outrageous. But again, I think it's another example of the government getting a bit tougher with Israel. Obviously not going as far as a lot of people would like. Those on the pro-Palestinian side, I think, would think that the government's very soft on Israel. But it does show as well. I mean, Israel is technically an ally of ours, and yet relations now between Britain and Israel are at all-time low.
They probably, I would suggest, an all-time low. And look, it's just such a disaster out there, isn't it? Divorce rate falls, but splits more likely to end in court. So fewer couples are getting divorced in the UK, but those that separate are much more likely to end up battling in court over money. Yeah.
I mean, it's good news, isn't it, that the divorce rate is falling?
I suppose as long as people are...
As long as they're happy, stay together. As long as it's not staying together purely because it's too expensive to get divorced.
But I suspect that a lot of people do stay together, not because it's too expensive to get divorced, but because it's too expensive to split one property and get two. Who goes?
Too much hassle.
It's just too much hassle and too much money. So maybe. And the NHS won't hit targets even with an extra 30 billion. This is getting boring.
Well, it's become a money pit, really.
It's literally.
This is one of the key benchmarks, I think, that voters will judge this government on. People like to think of Labour as the party of the NHS. The NHS tends to get better when Labour are in power. Yeah. Now, there have been some tentative positive signs thus far, but obviously a long way to go. But this is undoubtedly a concern, to put it mildly, for the government if they're not going to hit these targets on waiting lists, which is the one thing I think that people can really experience. If they know they're going to wait 6 months, 12 months for medical treatment, then they're not going to be very happy about it. And if those waiting list targets aren't met, despite all this extra money going in, I mean, so tomorrow's the spending review. NHS is going to be one of the few government departments that actually gets a big increase.
It's nearly 200 billion a year now.
And
but the interesting thing is, for me, is that most of the times when the NHS has had a big lump of money, it's gone on wages. Something like 60% of all NHS spending, it may be even more now, is salaries.
Yeah.
So that is also the issue we have here.
Yeah.
And with nurses now saying no to their 3.6% pay rise, junior doctors saying we said 30% and we meant it, there's a very good chance that more than 30 billion will be just sucked out of the NHS again on wages.
And if they take industrial action in order to...
Waiting lists won't ever...
Then that wait list will start to go in the opposite direction again, although they have been coming down in recent months, but they'll start going up again.
Of course they will, yeah. You can't win, can you?
And, you think, well, what does the government do then? They'll end
up capitulating to them with over wages. They'll have to, I'm afraid. Right, Kevin and I are going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it's Petrie here with you and doing the paper review with the fabulous Kevin Schofield, political editor at Huffington Post UK. The Daily Telegraph. Rayner drops law on rough sleepers. Rough sleepers, what was that? It is to be decriminalised.
Yeah, so the Vagrancy Act makes it illegal to sleep rough.
Right.
And that was introduced in 1824 to tackle a homelessness crisis after the Industrial Revolution. So it's been around for a long time.
I suspect it didn't work then.
No, and it doesn't appear to have worked now either. I don't think locking up homeless people really is a long-term
well, it gives
solution.
them a roof over there.
Yeah, but it might explain, not when you've got a prison capacity crisis as well. So it's going to be decriminalised. Now, I think that the presentation of this story by the Telegraph would suggest that this is a bad thing, but given the fact that certainly in London you see an awful lot of people sleeping rough, it doesn't seem to be terribly effective.
It is absolutely insane to criminalise somebody for being homeless.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the most vulnerable people in society, and you're turning them into being criminals for being vulnerable. No,
well, the
that's
Telegraph
not who
say
we are.
It means it will no longer be an offence to sleep on a pavement, which raises the prospect of homeless people being able to camp freely on city streets.
Because that's what everybody wants to do.
Well,
isn't
quite.
it?
It doesn't. It's not. These people are desperate.
I'm due a holiday. Maybe I'll just camp on the streets of London.
Absolutely. You don't have to worry about getting arrested.
I don't have to worry about getting arrested.
Thanks to those crazy socialists in the government.
Those woke people. I mean, look. Of course, we need to be tackling the root causes of sleeping rough and homelessness, and punishing people who. I don't suppose they get arrested though, but perhaps they can just get moved on.
Yeah, I think that's more likely.
But you can still move people on.
Yeah, but in theory they could at the moment be arrested for breaking the Vagrancy Act. Anyway, they're going to repeal this act and put more money into tackling homelessness, because I mean it is a major problem.
It is a major problem.
And if anything, it's got worse, I think, in recent years.
And I really, it's really the thing that I just find the most heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
When you imagine a day that starts off where you've got nowhere to go back to, nowhere to go, because you've got nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that thought blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then just that moment when I put the key in my door and it's my door and I know I can close it behind me, and that means everything to me.
Of course.
It's just, I just don't think people think enough about how powerful having a home really is. We take it for granted a lot.
Yeah.
But I know that one of my son's friends was homeless for a while. He used to come sofa surf with me and other people, but other times he would just sleep on a night bus. Just really sad. Just really, really sad.
Very sad.
Yeah, so good. Well, I'm pleased about that. I really am. Starmer's Chagos deal funds tax cuts in Mauritius. God.
Yeah. So basically,
this is a kick in the. He punched himself right in the face with this, didn't he?
Yeah. It's. I think there's more to come out on this. I don't understand what the rush was really.
No,
for them to do it. But it turns out that there's £500 million in payments that were given to the Mauritian government. It will use almost 500 million of the payments to pay off its national debt. God. And cut income tax for 81%. Abolish income tax for 81% of employed Mauritians and raise minimum salary. Sounds like I might have to move.
Should we go?
Might have to move to Mauritius.
I think we'll all just
Sounds
move
great.
there. That sounds all right, doesn't it? The Guardian. Let's have a look at The Guardian. UK imposes sanctions on Israel. We've seen that. Spending on affordable housing to rise to 39 billion. This is Rachel Reeves. Will nearly double government spending on affordable housing today. I wish they would be more honest, actually, because the only affordable housing is social housing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that what she means? No.
No, and it's how do you
No.
define affordable?
Exactly.
But-
Who's affordable?
Yeah.
It's nonsense. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's the fork tongue speaking. The only truly affordable housing for the majority of people is social housing, and that's not what they're building.
That's not what they're building. But it is true to say that the government spending on it is going to double. I think at the moment it's around about £2.3 billion a year is spent on it. It's going to increase to £3.9 billion a year. This has been seen as a big win for Angela Rayner, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Housing Secretary. She was one of the last, between her and Yvette Cooper were the two last cabinet ministers to do a deal with the Treasury on the spending review, because they thought that their budgets weren't enough. And it looks as though she's managed to wangle a bit extra cash out the Treasury to pay for affordable housing. So we'll see what that does to the housing crisis in this country.
Well, I mean, we were promised 1.5 million houses by the end of this Parliament.
Yeah.
We're not even going to get one. I don't mean 1 million. I mean one.
Well, that would to do it.
It's ridiculous. We haven't got the builders. We haven't got. I mean, it's just not. Why do they think we're so stupid, Kevin? That's the question, really.
Well, they said all these things, made all these promises to get elected.
Yeah.
And it's, I know, who would ever believe that MPs would do that? And as I mentioned earlier, these are the things like waiting lists that they will be judged on, and if they don't haven't achieved it, then people are going to say, right, well, we're going to get rid of you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very specific number as well, which was foolish of Rachel Reeves, which is why governments don't usually put numbers like that on 1.5 million houses she promised by the end of this Parliament.
Yeah.
And that was 800,000 houses, no, 800 houses a day.
Yeah.
800 houses
and
a day.
far more than the rate has been for years.
I don't think they've built any.
No. The other one is £300 off energy bills. That's another one that people remember.
Yeah. That hasn't happened.
No, and it won't happen.
And it won't happen. No, absolutely ridiculous. The Mirror is also talking about the social housing boost. What is it with MPs and builders' hats?
Yeah.
They love it, don't they?
Yeah, even though they look stupid.
It's this cosplay.
Yeah. They look a bit like Bob the Builder.
Yeah. I mean, it's just stupid. Why they all do it, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Nonsense. It's like they can't wait to get into uniform as well, or when they go do some military stuff. It's embarrassing. Grow up. The top of the Mirror, though, is talking about the rugby league hero Billy Boston becoming the sport's first knight.
Yeah, I mean, remarkable, really, when you consider what a huge sport rugby league is in certain parts of the north of England, really, the northwest in particular, that there's never been a knight, a player knighted before. But yeah, Billy Boston.
Plenty of football players, but not rugby players.
Plenty of football players, yeah. So he played for Wigan. So he played in the 1965 Challenge Cup final. There's a picture of him there as a player. That's 60 years ago.
Wow.
So you can see he's in his 80s now. It's an absolutely fantastic
picture
of the King knighting him, and the look
They're both laughing.
They're both laughing. The look of sheer delight and joy in Billy Boston's face is an absolute joy to behold, isn't it? It's a great picture.
It really is a great picture.
There's a lot of gloomy news around, but it's nice to see.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that. Good on the Mirror for doing that. OK, we've got The Independent now. Police investigation after 3 children die at the same care unit. Inquiry reopened into a boy 5 who suffocated at Britain's biggest rehab facility for disabled youngsters, where 2 more have since died. Good heavens.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great exclusive that the Independent have got, but you can imagine that the parents of these poor disabled children will be demanding answers over this. I mean, this is just terrible. I mean,
it's shocking, isn't it?
I hesitate to say neglect without knowing what the full details are, but certainly there's questions to be answered over how these children died.
The Conor Wellstead 5 died in 2017, having suffocated when a cocked bumper became lodged under his chin. I thought those, you know, that trend that there was for putting these things in. The best cot is an empty cot.
Yeah. I think we might have had
those bumpers.
I think I'm pretty sure we did.
Yeah. And they were really trendy at one point. But now I think the rule is, you know, what is it? Head to foot or something. So you put the baby's head right at the top of the cot and nothing else in the cot.
Really?
It's the safest way. Yeah. Because toys and things like that. You just don't know what's going to happen. But what a tragedy to send your disabled child to a rehabilitation centre and then for them to die.
Absolutely. But it is interesting that the police, so inquests uncovered a litany of failings in all 3 deaths. But now police have launched a fresh investigation into Conor Wellstead's death, and that was the one you just mentioned. Yeah. So yeah, interesting.
Well, I hope they find some peace from whatever that they discover there. Those are the times when those reviews are a really good idea, aren't they? They really are. Let's take a break, and Kevin and I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it's Petrie, and with me Kevin Schofield, political editor at the Huffington Post UK. The Daily Mail, Kevin, right, so first of all there is a picture of the Queen, daggers at Meghan.
Yeah.
Dagger. Do you think that's a real... It looks like it's a real photograph.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it looks like a picture from the wedding. Their wedding.
Oh.
Yeah.
If looks could kill.
I think she'd already sussed Meghan out.
I think she'd already made up her mind. Revealed the single word that spelt the end for Meghan and Harry in the eyes of the Queen, but we don't know what that word is. You'll have to buy a copy of the Daily Mail. Yes, so can I. But that look on her face.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Absolute daggers, isn't it?
Yeah.
And well,
hatred.
You know, if they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and if that isn't misleading, if it is as it appears, then you've got to say she was a pretty good judge of character, because she's obviously thought you look like trouble.
Yeah.
And that's certainly true.
Yeah.
There's been nothing but trouble from Harry and Meghan basically since they got married.
Well, wasn't she
as far as the royal family?
Yeah, as far as they're concerned. But also, she was really upset with them calling their daughter Lilibet.
Yeah.
Because that was a beloved nickname from Philip.
Yeah.
That was their secret.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And they didn't even tell her they were going to do it.
No. That was their cosy, her private nickname from her husband, Lilibet.
Yeah.
And she stole it and gave it to her daughter, which I think is pretty low.
It is
actually.
low. Well, yeah, because it was done obviously as a way of having it was all about family politics, wasn't it? It wasn't done as... If it had been done affectionately, they would have told the Queen. They'd have told the Queen, or asked her.
They'd have asked her and said, look, we absolutely love it. Is there any way that we can call our daughter
Which would have been
Lilibet?
Fine. I'm sure she would have said, yes, of course, you've got my blessing.
But to nick it and then find out about it, probably in a newspaper.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was her... That was because she adored Philip, her husband. They were madly in love, and for her to use the nickname is just...
Yeah, I know. It's horrible. Left a nasty taste.
Yeah, really. Reeves rocked by jobs slump. Really? I thought that industry and retail were warning her since her budget that there would be a jobs slump.
Well, yeah, and it's been confirmed in data that was released today showing the number of employees on the payroll has dropped quite considerably, actually. Now, this blows a huge hole in the government's claim that the economy has, quotes, turned a corner.
Because they were saying they fixed it yesterday.
Well, that was why this. I mean, it's complete baloney. Complete baloney.
Such a lie.
This is why they were U-turning on winter fuel.
Because they fixed it.
Because we've turned a corner. The economy's doing much better now. We've balanced the books. So we're now able. No one believes it.
No one.
Everyone knows that they've done it purely because voters hated the policy.
Yeah.
It was costing them at the ballot box.
And it wasn't going anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was. They had to do something about it. It was a purely political decision, a smart political decision, because if something is doing you political damage, then you have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But then at least then just come clean.
Yeah.
And say we made a mistake. We realise it was a wrong thing to do. We're sorry that we did it.
You never hear
we will
that.
find the money to pay for it. The principle is right. You know, we're means testing it is right. We're not going to have let really rich pensioners have it, but you know, we get it. We've listened, and we're going to make amends.
I mean, if they
but to try and lie their way out of it is just.
If they just said we listened to you, that's all the populace wants, right? It's a government that listens to them, so they go, oh, okay.
Yeah, and people would respect that.
I agree, but they never do.
Because they're not used to politicians admitting when they get things wrong.
No.
And then they've just compounded it by lying, basically. And then this shows again that it's a load of rubbish. The idea that the economy has turned a corner and everything in the garden is rosy.
She was warned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the 11,000 private school pupils that have left private education and now trying to be crammed into the state, and they're saying that's got nothing to do with the VAT increase.
I mean,
it's like, honestly, why do they treat us like we're idiots?
Well, also,
that's what I don't get. They genuinely think we're stupid.
And also, I was thinking about it this morning. It's like if this was the Tories doing it, Labour would be having a field day.
All over it.
You know, and voters know that.
I know.
And so that's why they just don't believe them.
It is.
So they managed to make a bad situation even worse.
What a shocker! I mean, they really don't. They really can't manage. And again, I'm just really concerned about the October budget. Although tomorrow will be exciting, eh, Kev? You and me covering the
spending review. Yeah.
Yeah, you looking forward to that?
Not especially. No, I'm not great with numbers.
Neither are they.
You know, that's true. Actually,
I wouldn't worry about it.
We have a spring statement, and we've got spending review. We've got the budget coming in October. Then it'll be the spring statement again. It's like, oh my goodness,
it's too much, isn't it? But the spending review. At least one thing with the spending review, we will know the direction of this government, politically speaking.
In terms of priorities, the things that are priority, NHS and defence, they're going to be the two big winners, really. From
and I do think that will give the defence spending gives Rachel Reeves an excuse for the budget. Although when she was asked about it the other day, she said, "No, that was a once in a lifetime budget. I'm not going to do that again."
Well,
but I don't see how they can afford it.
Again, box themselves in again. They're saying we're not going to do that again. We're not going to increase taxes like we did then, right? Or we're not going to increase income tax, VAT, or national insurance on employees.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
She raised 40 billion last time. That's enough. But it will be interesting. I mean, maybe they'll just cut. They'll look at and see what America's doing and getting away with, and maybe they cut the foreign aid budget even further for defence.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
They've already taken money off it for defence, and they've taken money off it as well to pay the hotel bill for migrants. So maybe they'll just take even more off it.
Well.
And shove it into defence.
You wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. This story is really heartbreaking on the Metro. Revenge massacre at school, not the US, which is surprising. 10 die before the gunman shot himself dead. This is a former pupil returned to his old school. This is in Austria, armed with a shotgun and a semi-automatic pistol, and shot dead 10 people before killing himself. And this is because he was, my understanding is because he was bullied at school.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an absolute appalling story. You know, as a parent, you send your kids off to school and you think they're safe, you assume that they will be safe. We saw this in Dunblane, we've seen it countless times in the United States, but it is absolutely horrendous.
Almost
6 girls,
weekly. Yeah,
6 girls, 3 boys, and at least 1 woman, a teacher, among the victims. It says here, a 21-year-old gunman who killed himself, bravely killed all those people, then killed himself to avoid facing the consequences. But yeah, it would appear that he was a former pupil who apparently was bullied and had gone back to school to wreak his revenge on defenceless little kids who had never done him any harm at all, or anyone probably in their lives. And I mean, the details are absolutely awful. He cornered students in 2 classrooms, one of which was one of his old classrooms, and fired in circles to inflict maximum damage. Absolutely.
I mean, these
horrible,
people who, you know, I mean, honestly, what a disgusting thing to do. I mean, I remember walking my son to school. Must have been 20 plus years ago now. When Bataclan happened.
Oh yeah.
And I remember,
theatre, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was, because it was so unusual again for these shootings to be outside of the US, because there are so few school shootings outside of the US. But I remember just walking him to school and just thinking, gosh, some other mother did that. Some other mum did this and wasn't able to pick her kid up.
Yeah,
it's just horrendous.
No, it is. I mean, where I grew up wasn't far from Dunblane, and I worked on a local paper at the time, and
that was shocking, wasn't it?
And I was only 21 at the time, and it's not until you're a parent yourself actually that you fully appreciate what actually
the real horror,
of it, and it just defies belief, really.
And yet, you know, look at we've had so few of these incidents, and then the huge bans on handguns came in after Dunblane, didn't it? And then you know, and further tightened up gun control. And, you know, and other countries choose perhaps not to do that. I don't know what the gun laws are like in Austria. I think they're fairly tight, actually. The Sun, the red arrows are running out of planes.
Yeah, apparently according to the Sun, the legendary RAF team, that's a great second mention there, has 13 working jets, but it may be down to 6.
But they do the Diamond 9.
Well,
they're the only Air Force that can do the Diamond 9.
Yeah, we can't do
they
Diamond 9.
They can't do the Diamond 9 with 6 planes.
6 doesn't work. Yeah, the red arrows are running out of planes, said a source. So that's another thing for the government to worry about, because you know they're an iconic.
They are, and they're a top recruiting tool actually. For the RAF.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't realise. And they really are the best of the best. But I mean, when I see other air forces with just 6 planes or whatever doing a Diamond, you think, Peh.
Yeah.
But I mean, the precision.
Yeah, it is remarkable. The skill involved is absolutely remarkable.
It's outstanding.
Breathtaking,
it's
isn't it?
Absolutely stunning. I would like to say the same about you, but
I know you'd be lying.
Kevin, you are breathtaking. Thank you very much indeed for coming in to do the papers. Coming up, it is just you and me, and we're going to be talking about children and looking at the birth rates that are plummeting across the world. And it's not just because people don't want kids anymore, but it is for lots of other reasons. So I want to talk to you and see if you've had children but you wanted to have more children, if you chose not to have children, and why those decisions were made by you. So did you stop at 2 but think, oh, I'd quite like to have had 4 but I can't afford it, we haven't got the space, or whatever the reasons are. Or maybe you chose to be child free. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. 0344 499 1000, and you can message me on 87222.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. This is Talk, and this is Petrie, and I'm with you now for the next hour, and it is just you and me. And the conversation I'd like to have with you this morning is about birth rates. We just had a report through from the United Nations saying that birth rates are plummeting across the world. 2 in 5 people over 50 say they've not had as many children as they wanted, with economic issues, health concerns, and fears about the state of the world amongst the main barriers. More than half said financial factors such as affordable housing, childcare options and job security were things that had limited or would limit their ability to grow their families. 1 in 4 said health issues were holding them back, while a fifth of respondents mentioned fears about global issues including climate change, wars and pandemics. The finding comes after a new survey of over 14,000 people by the United Nations Population Fund, the UNFPA, spanning 14 countries on 5 continents, that are home to a third of the world's population. Now, birth rates have been declining across almost all regions of the world, while life expectancy continues to grow. And there are concerns from politicians and commentators like Elon Musk, who's doing his very best to repopulate the planet. I wish he wouldn't. The future generations of working age people will find it more difficult to economically support people of pension age as the ratio of workers to pensions shifts. However, the world is overpopulated. There is absolutely no question about that. You've got people modelling the ideal number of human beings on the planet to be sustained by the planet's natural resources. It ranges from 300,000 people, which is apparently ideal. Gosh, we're at 8-9 billion now. So you're talking under 1 million would be ideal. Other people say no, it should be around about 5 billion. But that's, I mean, if it's around 5 billion and we're at 9, but I mean that's nearly half. We've got to get rid of nearly half the population of the planet in order for the planet to be able to sustain a comfortable human existence. Because at the rate we're going, of course, we're going to run out of things like water, fresh water and fresh air. Just simple things like that we need to survive. So this seems to me to be a real sort of dichotomy for humanity. Is, you know, what's best in the long run is a drastic reduction in population. But all we can see is this short-termism of the next sort of 30, 50 to 100 years, and going, well, what we need, because we've got an ageing population, we need more people to come in and work, to pay the tax, to fund supporting those older people who use the NHS more and who need care and social services, etc., etc. So it's a real push-pull, this one, isn't it? Because actually, what should happen, realistically, is that we find another way of dealing with old people and we find another way of funding them that doesn't require human beings. And maybe AI will be the answer to that, because actually, once people die out, it's probably a good plan for the planet that we don't replace like for like, person for person. The survey carried out in 4 European countries, 4 in Asia and 3 across Africa and 3 from the Americas. So it was a very wide-reaching survey, although 14,000 doesn't sound like very many people, but it is a decent size survey. So I really want to ask you about your own situation. Did you choose not to have children? Are your children choosing not to have children? I think there are many more young people now who are going, do you know what? They're too expensive, they're too disruptive, they're going to mess up my career, they're going to mess up, I've got a really nice flat that I can live in for the rest of my life if I want to. I don't need to buy a house, I don't need to be worrying about, you know, all of those things. I don't like the state of the world. There are lots of people who are looking at the world and thinking, nah, it's not for me. And there are others who perhaps want more children than they've been able to have. And maybe that was for fertility reasons, or maybe that was for financial reasons, or, like I said, just the state of the world. I mean, I don't know why anybody would bring a baby into the world at the moment with a threat of war from Russia. I just can't imagine why anybody would do that. But people do. So, what's your situation? And if you've chosen not to have children, are you judged harshly? Women are, men aren't. You ask a man, do you have kids? No. It's like, oh, good on you, mate. Ask a woman, do you have children? No. Oh, what's wrong with you? Right? It's a very different attitude. So I'd love to hear from you. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. And you can WhatsApp as well on the same number as the phone number, 0344 499 1000. And you can leave a voice message there as well. Alana is in the Scottish Highlands. Hello, Alana.
Hi, Petrie. Thanks for taking my call.
You're very welcome. You're a first-time caller.
Yes, I am, but I have been watching for a long time.
Oh, good. I love that when that happens. So, Alana, tell me about you.
Okay, I'm 39, 40 this year. I've suffered with endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome since I was 19, with many surgeries over the past 20 years, resulting with 2 miscarriages and a stillbirth. I think this doesn't get highlighted with women choosing in your category of women choosing not to have children, that there are a lot of women, especially with endometriosis, 1 in 10, where people struggle to actually conceive. But as the past I don't have a partner anymore, and subsequently my husband and I divorced about 5 years ago, but I think...
Was that because of the fertility issues? It probably didn't help.
It didn't help. No, it didn't help. We do remain on great terms, though, which is a bonus.
That's good.
But I do feel now that over the past 5 years, and with something that you just touched on, the state of the world and the scary place that it's becoming, I'm kind of glad that I've got to 40 nearly, and I don't have children. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would wish any one of them to be here now, but I think it's very scary. And I see my stepsister raising her 3-year-old, and they're still based down in Kent. And I don't know. Even for my age, I find, and I don't scare easily, but I find the state of the world, what's ahead for the younger generation. I'm struggling to get on the housing market myself. Yeah. How will the younger generation cope? So I'd say in the past 5 years that I've flipped around and that I've made peace that I don't have children. It's sad, but I also it's very difficult to explain when I try and put it into words.
But have you embraced being child-free, as it were? Has the language you're using on yourself changed from being childless to child-free?
Yes, I guess it has in a way. I haven't looked at it in that sense. Yes.
Because I think that's a really good way to look at yourself now.
Absolutely, and I still believe that people who do not have children still have a valid input into this world, because sometimes you get these sympathy head tilts from people. Oh, you don't have children. Yes. Oh, that's a shame. And they don't know, the troubles behind it and what you've gone through to get to where you've got to today.
I think it's really blooming rude, actually.
Yes. It is rude.
It's so rude. I mean, you wouldn't really ask a man of a certain age that, would you? It's straight and want so much personal information. Do you have kids? No. A man? Oh, okay, well done, mate. A woman? Why?
No,
why?
no,
Tell me why. Is it through choice? Is it by choice?
Yes.
That's what you hear. That's the question I hear my friends being asked. Is it by choice? None of your business.
No, exactly. I mean, if I'm in conversation with somebody and they choose to tell me something like that, that's completely different. Yeah. And I'll, of course, indulge in that conversation with them, and I'll open up about my experiences too. And sometimes talking about it with somebody in a similar situation can often help.
Yeah.
But, I think with society these days, and what you touched on is that we are overpopulated anyway.
Yeah.
I think we should be bringing the birth rate down, personally.
It is an interesting dichotomy, isn't it? That the whole sort of either we go for the short-termism, and by short-termism I mean the next 50 to 100 years, and think about replacing the population, or we look at the very long term and go, do you know what? Actually, we really shouldn't be. We need to halve the population of the planet in order for human life to be sustainable.
That's right, exactly. Amongst many other subjects that need sorting out, with climate change and just overcrowding and all the other strains that ends up putting on the infrastructure of our world and what have you. But yes, no, I'm so glad that you've touched on this subject tonight, because I think it's something that's not spoken about.
I agree.
Enough.
I agree, and I also think that the fight that women have in this world to whether they have children or don't have children, whether they can have children or can't have children, is there's such a judgment that comes with that I find really offensive. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have sort of a semi-death stare if somebody asks me now. I've got used to it over time. I just give a stare. And
yeah, it's like you've not fulfilled your... it's not, you know, as a woman, oh, you haven't fulfilled your purpose. It's like, oh, sod off. What's it got to do with you? I mean, it's literally that, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what I mean by sometimes when people, if you give an opinion and they say, well, you haven't got children, how would you know? Well, actually, because I'm on the outside looking in, I could actually look in with a fresh pair of eyes and a different opinion. Just because I don't have children doesn't mean to say that I'm worthless.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. And I really wish that people would see women as more than just vessels for giving birth as well. Yes. That you can be a full human being, a full woman without having children.
Exactly that. We are useful for our brains, not just what our body can do.
Exactly. And also the world needs aunties. A friend of mine said that to me today. The world needs lots of aunties around.
I'm a very cool aunt.
Yeah,
when my niece videos me, she loves to see the dogs, the chickens and everything else that I have at home. So, no, it's always a fun phone call with her.
Oh, I'm so glad. And dogs, anyway, they're the business.
Oh, gosh, they don't judge you. Endless love.
What have you got? What have you got? Tell me what dogs you've got.
I have a Springer Spaniel.
Oh my gosh.
He's my world.
So much energy.
12 now. Yes. A Romanian Shepherd.
Wow.
A cat that came free with a house that my husband and I moved into 8 years ago, and 2 chickens in the garden. Yeah, so it's I love my life, and you know what? Sometimes you think there's just more devastation going on in the world than what's going on with me. Yes, sometimes you have your down days, and sometimes you think, oh, what life could have been with children. But I think I'm still fulfilling my purpose in life.
Exactly that. And actually, children are not all they're cracked up to be. Right.
Yes, when I walk into supermarkets, I know I can walk straight back out.
In fact, what you should do is perfect your tut. And just look.
Oh, I could. Yes, absolutely.
Practice tutting. It's the most passive-aggressive thing. I'm brilliant at it. Just sort of practice that in the mirror. That'll really make you happy. Alana, it's been absolutely lovely talking to you. You will call again, won't you?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for kicking the conversation off. Alana there in the Scottish Highlands. Now, quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
Hello there. It is good to have your company. It's Petrie with you. And we're talking about birth rates and why birth rates are plummeting around the world. It's not just because people don't want kids anymore, although I do think that increasingly that is becoming really very much what younger people are thinking. And who can blame them? I mean, they'll never be able to afford a house. They'll never be able to afford a decent living, especially if you're going to have loads of kids. Probably one kid you could afford, maybe two at a push, and that's because people lie to you and say, oh, having two is just the same as having one. It's not, is it? No, it isn't. So it is not, it's not surprising to me that the birth rate is plummeting, but it is plummeting around the world and it is causing problems. And the only reason that the UK has kept up with the numbers that it needs to sustain the older population is through immigration. I know that's an unpopular thing to say, but the truth is the truth. It's as simple as that. I've got to read this. I've got to read this because the hypocrisy here is extraordinary, Greg. Hi, Petrie. I had 5 kids because the child tax credit from the Blair government years paid half my mortgage, so we had another, etc., etc. And then he says, so removing the 2-child cap will be a signal for immigrants to have 10 kids. So, Greg, it's all right for you to milk the system, right? It's all right for you to do it, but it's not all right for anybody else. And before you say, well, I'm a taxpayer, lots of immigrants are taxpayers too. So I just think that's really, did you think that through, or was that a joke? I don't know. I can't think about it. Jane has said, I think young couples are having a dog instead of a baby these days. Yeah, I think they probably are. And dogs are much easier in my experience. But it is, for me, interesting the way that the world views people without children, or men have viewed without children and women are viewed without children. It is interesting. Tracy's in Middlesbrough. Hi, Tracy.
Hiya.
Hiya. So, tell me about you.
I'll be 60 in a couple of years, and I never had children. I think I decided that from a very, very young age, to be honest.
Oh, did you? That's interesting. So you never had that maternal...
No, not at all. But I've got loads and loads of friends who've got kids. My family's got kids, and they're all, like, I'm an auntie, and all my friends' kids call me auntie and stuff like that. But what I'd be really scared of right now is the way, like, the knife crime and all that. I would be really frightened if I had... I'm not going to have a child now, but... if I had, like, a young mother now, would be frightened of the knife crime and the society and everything that goes on right now, or even poverty. Like, who would want one now?
I agree. I can't. I honestly do. I look
for one thing, to be worrying they couldn't afford it. Another thing, they probably couldn't afford it. And it's just horrendous. Like, why would you have a child right now? I don't know. I didn't have one then. Maybe 60, and obviously I can't have one now, but if I was younger now, coming up in this age, I still wouldn't have had one because it's awful, this world. It's like, you turn the telly on, I don't watch the news anymore, all you see is war, 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 and you think, what is going to go on next? Knife crime, war, shootings, blah, blah, blah. What is the future for kids? What is it?
Yeah, I was always amazed as well that even during war, people had babies, and I mean, I suspect some of those were accidents or not planned, but still, it's kind of like, blimey.
I think that's why I didn't have one.
Yeah, you were an accident. Oh no!
Yeah, I was an accident.
Oh, that's not very nice, is it? To tell you that.
Well,
So, how do people react to you saying you don't have children?
Well, obviously, my friends all have children, and they know I've got children. But when you meet strangers, like, I don't really go out now anyway, but if you met a stranger, go, oh, I've got kids, and you go, have you met? No, and they're like, why, what's wrong with you? What do you mean?
That's what I mean, the judgment that comes with it.
Wrong with? I mean, you're from America, aren't you? America.
Me?
Yeah.
No, God, no.
London.
I'm London. Well, yeah. I was born in Manchester and moved to Oxfordshire. But now I'm London.
Seen, 22 Kids and Counting, the programme.
No. Oh my God, no. 22 kids.
When you get off air, you need to watch that.
That would give
it's
me.
in England.
That'll give me the heebie-jeebies. I don't think I could.
No, you've got to watch it. 22 Kids and Counting. That's how many kids I've had.
Why?
I don't know. It's a programme, documentary. So.
I know, but that's a sickness, isn't it? Having 22 kids. Why would you have 22 kids?
But I watch it because I think, how on earth did they manage?
Do you watch that as a sort of? Do you watch that as a sort of way of going? Oh, I'm so glad I didn't have any.
What the hell? No, I was thinking, why? What?
Why?
Why? I mean, I think she's still young enough, even now, to have another one. Not young enough, but I think she still could have another one. I don't know. You've got to watch this programme.
Oh, I'll have a look. I think it might be like watching a horror movie for me, though.
No, it's not. It's good actually.
Yeah.
Yes. So if anybody's ringing in, I'm just advertising the programme now, aren't I?
That's all right. I don't mind that. But that's. I mean, that.
22 Kids and Counting, that is a programme. It's still on now.
I mean, I have one child and I love him very much. But the thought of having any more than
22 and counting.
Oh my God, that's a classroom.
Am I?
Isn't
it? Classroom. You should see them all.
Oh my God. But I suppose if you have that many, they look after each other. Is that the theory?
Yeah, they do. And you know what? It's not as bad as it sounds, to be honest. I mean, I come from a big family. We looked after each other.
How many in your family?
Well, there was 8, but not now.
There were 8 when you were growing up?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's a big family. That's maybe why you decided not to have any.
Well, I didn't have it wasn't a very nice sort of, shall I say then, like, we were all poor and
yeah.
I thought, I can't do this for someone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. My family, we're a big family. There's 5 of us, and each of us has only I had one child, my sister had one child, my older brother had one child, and my younger brother had 2 children. None of us have gone for big families.
But one of my sisters had 5, but sorry, one passed away. But she did have 5.
Wow.
And then another one had 4.
Oh, still big families.
2. No, yeah. But like from even going like a very young age, I thought I'm not having kids. I don't know what it was. I wasn't maternal, but I love kids, and I've got a lot of kids who call me auntie, and not even their auntie. Do you know what I mean? My friends' kids.
Oh, that's nice. But you can send them home at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
Brilliant. I mean, you got it totally sauced.
Great auntie and a great auntie now.
Wow.
And a great auntie now. So I never missed out on like. Well, yeah, I did. I sent them all home.
Yeah, I mean, they probably like you more as well, so that you get all the love and all the fun, and they get all the horrible parts.
Well, yeah, I used to treat them all the time, and I never like shouted at them because they weren't my mother.
Yeah, no, so you didn't have to. So you got it absolutely bang on. I like your plan. I'll have a look at that programme. I'll have a look. I will, I promise. I'll have a look.
22 Kids and Counting. You've got to watch it.
Honestly, I think it is a bit like a horror movie for me, but I will watch it. I will. Thank you, Tracy. Great call. Aaron, another new caller from Warrington this time. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here, talkTV.
Hey, look, it's my pleasure.
Thank you, man. LOLDOZZ in the chat. Hello. Right, so today I want to talk about this. Why do you choose not to have children? Right, I'm going to talk about this briefly now. So, I think it's good to have children and not. I understand, because that is probably like a big issue, because during the UK, the economy has increased very rapidly. Like, remember, we ended up with like Tesco meal deals for £3. Now it's gone up to £3 something now.
Mm.
It's a big struggle now, if you know what I mean. It's a very big struggle now, because parents are now struggling to look after the kids because they can't afford a few things.
Yeah, I think it is so expensive now, and I think that is a major issue for people who are thinking of having a kid.
Exactly. That is one of the biggest issues that we're facing right now in the UK. I think like the government should be like helping the children a bit more, like helping the families a bit more when it comes to like costs, you know, school equipment and all that. Because I always keep hearing that even teachers that are working in the school environment, they're struggling to put food on the table. And it's really not easy for the parents out there.
No, I think there was I can't remember, the numbers are horrendous. From birth to 20 years old, a child in this country will cost you around about £180,000.
Exactly, it is a lot.
It's just, it's unthinkable, isn't it? It's such a lot of money.
Very, very, very much, like a very lot of money. Like I kind of feel bad. I feel like the government should like support the people a bit more. I feel like it's gone a little bit less lenient, you know.
Well, I think that, you know, there's only so much money going around, but it will come to the point, I guess, where there has to be, if they want the birth rate to increase, they have to, I think the number one thing, you know, is housing. Is to make housing more available and sustainable for people.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know how old you are, Aaron, and do you have children?
My mum will kill me, man. I'm only 20.
You're only 20. Okay. But that's interesting, though. So you're only 20. Do you see children in your future?
Yeah, of course. I do see me having children in the future.
Yeah? Why do you want children in the future?
Why do I want children in the future? Like, it could be like, you learn a lot of things. You can learn a lot of obstacles in life, you know, because when you're being a parent, you learn about what you should do and what you shouldn't do in life. You know, you have to like also
put somebody else first. That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
I think you learn your place, you know, in the world.
Exactly. The things that you love doing, you have to stop doing it as well. So, for example, let's just say games, for example, playing on games. When you're an adult, you can't be doing that too much, can you?
No.
Because you've got children to look after, you've got work, you've got your wife to look after as well, you know.
Yeah, and you see that. And that's something that you desire for yourself.
Exactly.
Do you think that you will be able to afford it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I will work a way around my thing. Yeah, I always work a way around things.
Yeah, you'll find a way. But what about the planet? Does that occur to you that actually there's too many people in the world?
I mean, if you think about it, of course, the Earth itself will obviously have many people and will end up losing lots of people. So it's a bit 50-50. We gain people from this Earth and we also lose people from this Earth.
Do you think that the planet has a way of balancing the population? I mean, we've always had these sort of plagues come along, or these pandemics come along, get rid of the weaker people from the herd. Maybe we'll see something. We need to really lose about 4 billion people.
Exactly, but the way you're making it sound like you're going to do something crazy, but no.
I am planning, obviously, plotting. No, I mean,
no.
You know, in order for the planet to sustain us, because we're going to run out of natural resources, and by natural resources I mean as basic as water.
Exactly. Also, yeah, you are right. The population has increased. Like every time when I'm heading back home, I'm always stuck in traffic everywhere, left, right, and centre. Buses are full, trains are full, trams, you name it. Like, it's hard, you know. It's hard to go to somewhere and head back home because no matter what you do, no matter how early you are, you'll always end up in traffic.
Always, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you feel it even in your own small world, don't we? We feel that the pressure on us, the more people that there are around us, and yet the birth rate is declining, so we've got a much older population now, and while the older population are alive, they're sort of hogging the houses and the properties, which means that they don't come onto the market, which means that there's a supply and demand issue, which pushes the prices of properties up.
Exactly.
So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe I do need to have a plan.
Everyone's got a plan. People just think thoroughly and everything.
Yeah. Well, it's good at the age of 20 to be thinking about it and to be planning it and to think, right, well, what I need to do in order to get this is to work hard, think of something clever to do with money and get on the property ladder. That's what you need to do.
Exactly. Focus on yourself, be kind to everybody, find out what's good for you and find out what's bad for you. Something that's bad for you, do not go towards it. Do something good in life, Don't waste your time just mucking about. Just focus on what you want to achieve in life. That's the main focus in life.
I love you, Aaron.
No, thank you, Mother.
No, seriously. I mean, for 20-year-old boy, man, I should say, your mum must be very proud as well, because that's the perfect attitude. It's the perfect attitude to life, and you will go far because of it, I'm telling you. Will you call again?
Of course, if you want me to call again.
Of course I do, Aaron. Of course I do. You're part of the family now. Aaron there, new caller from Warrington. What a fine young man. What a nice chap. Right, quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And on Talk right now, it's Petrie. Let me read you some of the messages that have come through. Sam in Lancashire has said, "Hi Petrie, I had 4 kids and I'm so proud of all of them, but by heck it was hard work. I would never have kids in this day and age though. My friends that don't have children are just as fulfilled and happy and are great friends. No one should be judged on if they have kids. I remember at 17 being told I had childbearing hips. Lol. That would have stopped me these days." Sam, how rude people to say that to you when you're 17. Rude. Mark has simply said, "I'm 56 and I've never had kids. I honestly can't stand them. And why would I do that to myself? I can do what I want, go out when I want, eat when I want, spend my money on what I want. The list is almost endless. No way, Jose." Good for you, Mark. That's what I say. Mark, waiting to get loaded. Freight, not partying in Birmingham. Mark, yeah, there'll be an awful lot of people who agree with that, I'm telling you, and I don't judge you on that at all. I think that is they are very, very, very valid reasons. I can tell you that. Vicky said maybe people are becoming more aware of the financial implications of children. I had one child at the age of 24, and I would have loved to have more. However, I had to go back to full-time work after 3 months due to financial constraints. I was always worried I wouldn't be able to provide for her, let alone if I had any more. I always regret not having more children now, especially working in the social sector and seeing people who've never had to work in their lives and seem to be able to provide for 3, 4, or 5 plus children through benefits they get, and even seem to be able to afford to go on holidays each year. Maybe it's the way I was brought up, but I was taught to rely on myself. It makes me wonder if this is why society now is under such a strain financially, NHS, etc., because sometimes people don't think about their actions and impact on further generations. I can't seem to fathom how someone would expect anyone else to be responsible for another life they chose to bring into the world, but maybe I'm just old-fashioned. No, I'm with you entirely, Vicky. I'm with you 100% on that. And look, the one child that you've got has learned from a single mum who worked really, really hard, and that's something I'm very proud of with my son as well. He's such a wonderful human being. I'm incredibly proud of him. And he's learned about the work ethic and just how to be a decent person. So your daughter's very lucky. Robert said, my wife is disabled and was told by a surgeon not to have more than one child, as this would put too much stress on her and her family. Bob, and in the West Midlands. Joanna says the UK has only actually got the resources for 20 million food security and resources we import. I have 3 daughters and I didn't encourage them to be parents, and although I'm loving always their grandma, I would have been happy if they didn't, as long as they were happy. The eldest has 2 children, the middle is ex-military and never wanted children as far back as 13 years. Her husband is the same and they have dogs and adore her sister's children. The youngest has 1 IVF child, a very wanted baby. All have good incomes, but we all pull together at different times for childcare, etc., etc. It's so expensive. I don't know how any couple has children without family support. It's so true, Joanna. I completely agree with that. I really do. Let's go to another new caller. This is a good morning. Subi M. Subi in Leeds. Hello.
Hi there, love. How are we doing today? Okay.
I'm all right. Where does the name come from?
It's a nickname, to be honest. Subi is a nickname.
Nice, I like it. Okay, Subi, tell me your story.
Well, just listening to the show, I think people tend to not have children for various reasons, and I think it should be respected, although I don't agree on the financial side of things, because if we were to go back centuries where we didn't have financial benefits from the government that parents can get nowadays, parents still manage to find a way through.
Yeah, I suppose they did, but I'm thinking that, you know, certainly the farming community, for example, they would have had lots of children to work on the farm, which in a sense was a form of earning for them, because they could increase production with the children working on the farm, and they'd have lots of children in case some of them died. Of course, we had early deaths in children as well.
Yeah, of course, but then people, I respect that they don't want to have children, and some don't want to go through the trauma of it. Some want to focus on their career. Some just don't have that mental stability, as in whether they can go through with it. And some people just naturally cannot conceive, you know. And their decisions have to be respected, of course. I've got 5 children myself, to be honest.
5? That's a big family.
Yeah.
These days, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think it's each to their own, and in the society we live in, and how we respect other people's opinions and beliefs and even genders nowadays, I think people just not having children and don't want children should also be respected.
I completely agree. I mean, it's this. We need to just stop with the judgment, right? Why are we judging? It doesn't make any difference to us. Like you said, if somebody wants to be or refers themselves to a different gender, I mean, how does that impact your life? You know, why are we so judgmental about it? And also about people without children. I mean, you know, it's fine, right? If that's their choice.
Yeah, you know, it's end of the day, that's their choice, and they're gonna, you know, live with that, and if they're happy with that, then we should be happy for them too, to be honest.
I mean, people always say, you know, with people without children, they'll go, well, you know, who's going to look after you when you get old? And it's just like, well, there's no guarantee your kids are going to look after you, Sibby. So, you know.
Of course, yeah. Well,
and would you
nowadays,
want them to?
Honest, you see parents in care homes.
Enough of that, yeah, exactly.
And they have children, and the children are nowhere to be seen, to be honest.
Exactly, yeah. So that's not a guarantee. Did you always want so many children?
To be honest, not really, no. But then I think financially, because I am quite blessed, so I think I have got it a bit lucky with, as in family support, my job, a supporting partner, etc. Having that bit of freedom to go work more hours, to earn more financially without, you know, not giving much time at home kind of thing.
What ages are your kids at the moment?
So the youngest one is 3. Wow. And the oldest is doing his GCSEs.
16?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow,
yeah, so,
5 within that age group, blimey.
Yeah, so I think...
You're busy, you must be busy then with all those kids.
I think it's just finding the right time and balance, to be honest. And that itself is some sort of commitment that you should be willing to take on. And if you wasn't willing to take it on and you got stuck in it, then it's something you have to adjust your life to be honest.
Yeah, you don't have much of your own life with 5 children, I would think.
No, I still I participate regularly in sport activities. I socialise with friends. We have family days out. We have grandparent days, you know, where we've visit extended family, etc. I think it's just finding the balance and the routine. You know, and like I said, the family sport is a blessing itself, to be honest. It gives the parents a bit of time out as well, away from the children. And if you've got that sort of balance, and I think whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you know, it can be done. And
your partner must be amazing as well to put up with 5 kids.
Oh wow! Yes, she is.
Yeah.
I believe sometimes I can see how sometimes she is drained. But then, of course, she can also see sometimes how I'm drained as well from working many hours. And it just goes back to the factor of we both do jobs, whether it's her doing it at home or me doing it outside. It's still like a job looking after.
Absolutely.
And you know, it seemed like that because I'm in the legal field and of family law as well, and it seemed like that in the courts as well. When parents end up in courts, the courts don't just say that the father contributed financially and the mother didn't do nothing. They recognise that the mother brought children up, sacrificed her career, and etc. and so forth. So I think you just have to find the right balance if you do want children and have children. But we are also lucky that we have financial support for people that don't work from our government, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it is quite undermined as well by people.
Bringing up children.
Yeah, like, you know, we don't get enough money or enough benefits. If, you know, it's what you get, you can balance it out, you know.
Yeah.
And if you want more, then you have to chase it. It's like a dream, isn't it? If you want something, you've got to chase it. You've got to go for it.
Yep, I completely agree with you. Well, it sounds to me like you've got a pretty perfect setup.
Well, yeah, I'm blessed. I feel blessed.
Yeah.
And each day I wake up breathing, I enjoy it more because we don't know when our tickets are going to be up, is it? So
no, that's
for
exactly
me,
right.
having children was just not for when, when I get old, they're going to look after me, because let's be honest, nowadays society and age and trend, many kids grow up and they're far, far away from their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether that be because of their jobs or whether they have dreams of working in another country or whether they get stuck in their own family life.
Yes, it's not a guarantee by any stretch.
Yeah, for me, it was just more about, and this might be just a male thing, or it might be just me, but it was just more about legacy. Let your name live on. Let your children say, "Oh, your granddad did this and your granddad did that," and moving forward.
Oh, well, I think that's a human imperative, isn't it? It's all creatures. It's all about legacy. It's all about passing your genetic programming on. It's fundamental.
Of course, and on the one side of not having children, well, to be honest, not having children, there's a cons of that, isn't there? Of no legacy living on. But then again, in everything in life, there's pros and cons. So we can't just say, not having children is a big impact in life.
No, I think these days you can leave a legacy in other ways, and sometimes in more meaningful ways as well.
Of course, people do it in charities nowadays.
Exactly.
People do it by setting up businesses that they leave behind that run successfully for not even their own blood. It's maybe some business partner or the business partner's children. And for me, it was just legacy within the family, not something to help out in the world. But there are people out there who don't have children and they leave legacies in different ways. And again, it should be respected.
Completely agree. Like you said, it's all about choice. But I tell you what, as human beings, we tend to be horribly judgmental of each other, and we shouldn't be. So it'd be great to talk to you. Another new caller. Please do call again. I'd love to talk to you again. Brilliant. Some fantastic first-time callers. See, it's as easy as that. If you fancy it, 0344 499 1000. Quick break. Back in a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. It's Petrie here with you, and we're talking about being a parent. And it just it's one of those things because the birth rates are plummeting across the planet, and so I thought we'd have a conversation about being a parent if you chose not to be a parent, or if infertility was the reason you're not a parent, or a mixture of both, or becoming a parent, what that means to you, and really if you didn't have. If you stopped at 1 or 2 children because having any more was just too expensive, or the world has changed and you don't trust it for their futures, or whatever the reasons might be. So do give me a call, 0344 499 1000. And we have another new caller. I think this sets a record, actually. Jack, good morning.
Hello. I just want to say thank you for having me talk. And I just want to talk about having kids.
Yeah, sure. Okay, Jack, tell me your story.
All right. So I have one kid, and that really improved my life. It evolved me as a person, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, having kids is one of the best things you could possibly do.
So talk me through, first of all, just so I can get an idea, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 25.
25. Before you had your child, what was your life like?
I was just struggling to find myself. I didn't think I had a purpose.
Interesting.
I'd think like I'd sit in my one-bedroom apartment for the rest of my life.
Really?
Until I found my loved one, and then yeah. So
you were just aimless, in a sense?
I was aimless. But when I had my kids, I saw value in myself. I saw like a lot of myself and what I could do in the future, and I'm thinking about having another kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how old's your child?
Oh, my child's 4 years old.
4 years old now.
Yeah.
Okay. How did he? Is it he or she? He.
It's a he.
He. How did he change you? Do you think? I mean, was it immediate?
It was immediate. At first, I didn't really want to have a kid. I just, like, for instance, I just wanted to stay in my one-bedroom apartment. I didn't really want to have a kid.
Yeah.
But getting to know my kid and, like, how it's changing me as a person, and how I'm, like, before I was kind of an angry person, but right now I'm a happy person, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I suppose in a way, having children is the ultimate growing up, isn't it? Because suddenly you're no longer a child.
Yeah.
That you then have to be the parent. In what practical ways did it change you? So you were pretty aimless, sitting about, not doing very much with your life. So then you didn't think you wanted a child, but then he came along and it changed your perspective on the world. Did it make you more ambitious? Did it make you want to be a better man for him?
It made me more positive, and it just wanted me. I wanted to I wanted to do more with myself and achieve more of my goals. Because I didn't really think of me a self-development as much until I had my kid. Now I want to make more money so I can provide for him and do as much as I can for him.
And are you still with the mother? Are you a couple?
Yeah, her name's Macy.
That's nice. That's lovely.
Yeah.
And you want another one now?
Yeah, I want another one.
And what does she think?
She'd be lovely. She'd be lovely to have another one.
And do you think that? I mean, I know that with my son, he did teach me a lot.
Yeah.
And it's that selflessness, isn't it? It's always putting somebody else first.
I'd say the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And what do you want for him?
Oh, I want to afford anything he wants in life, and yeah, pretty much. And I want another kid as well. I want a daughter.
Do you?
So I feel like having another Ginger as a kid would benefit me in self-development.
So it just change you again in another direction.
Not change me, but like evolve me as a person. Like I said, yeah.
It's interesting that you use the word evolve.
Yeah.
This was. What about your family? Are they kind of like shocked at how you've changed, or?
They were really shocked. They like at first. They thought like someone must have kidnapped me or something and like replaced me. But yeah.
So you changed that much?
I changed a lot because, like I said, I was a pretty angry person.
Why do you think you were angry and a child took that away?
For a child, I think like you had to be like a calm person. You can't really be angry. You can't really be an angry person around your child 24/7, can you?
No.
So if you're an angry person, your wife's gonna have problems, your child's gonna have problems. So it will change you, or you're just gonna have a bad life.
So you've had to really rebuild yourself in a way.
Yeah.
And control your behaviour and control your mental health.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I had a mental health problem, but I was just, I wanted to be angry on purpose. But yeah.
And when you